This is going to get much worse before it gets better.
Now it's 7. A serious message from New York Governor Andrew Cuomo warning hospitals are running out of space and first responders are running out of supplies. Now the new solutions as New York hits 20,000 coronavirus cases.
Hiring help. Despite many businesses shutting their doors, thousands of jobs are actually opening up, and companies will pay you a bonus to work.
And then there's the wet weather. A spring storm bringing a mix of rain and, yes, even snow to the tri-state. Storm Team 4 with how long this will stick around. Good evening at 7. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stephen Holtz.
And I'm Natalie Pasquarella. The coronavirus pandemic is accelerating. This is according to the head of the World Health Organization. There are now more than 300,000 cases across the world and from nearly every country. Plus, tonight, confusion over the 2020 Tokyo Games. One member of the International Olympic Committee says the games are delayed until 2021. The committee says a decision hasn't been made yet. And for the second time, the coronavirus stimulus bill, which would provide financial help to Americans, has failed in the U.S. Senate.
It's hard to look at these, but we got to show you the numbers for the tri-state. New York, over 22,000 cases, 157 deaths. New Jersey, 2,800 cases and 27 deaths. And then there's Connecticut with 415 cases and 10 fatalities.
We have our team spread across the tri-state for you tonight, and we start with Ray Vieta live at the Javits Center, which is being transformed into a hospital for coronavirus patients. Ray.
That's right, Natalie. The city's largest convention center here on the west side will be turned into a hospital to deal with the influx of coronavirus patients. And it's going to happen fast. 1,000 beds expected within the next 10 days. Governor Cuomo toured this site earlier today. The National Guard is here. Equipment is also coming in. Now, here's how it's going to work. 1,000 beds will be for those who need critical care. Another 1,000 will be for those who are not as seriously affected by the virus. The goal of all of this is to help backfill. All of these hospitals are now getting full, and all the backfill of those patients will be treated here at this site. But that's not the only issue right now that is of importance to both the governor and the mayor. Equipment. A lot of equipment is needed. I'm talking about ventilators, masks, coveralls. That is needed quickly, and that's what the governor and mayor are now focusing their efforts on.
We are still in the relative calm before the storm.
To deal with the storm of COVID-19 cases, the state of New York preparing the Jacob Javits Center on the west side. The convention center to house a total of 2,000 beds to deal with the range of patients being seen at hospitals now.
New beds here.
Mayor Bill de Blasio visiting Kohler Rehab Facility on Roosevelt Island. It will house hundreds of hospital beds by next week to help deal with the growing number of cases. Now both mayor and governor focused on getting the equipment needed at these hospitals. The masks, the gloves, and the ventilators.
It is not a time for hopelessness because we finally see things starting to happen.
Both leaders calling on the president to use the Federal Defense Production Act that would allow President Trump to direct private companies to meet needs, in this case, hospital equipment. The governor describing what that situation is like right now.
Frankly, bidding against other states, driving the price up. Masks that we paid 85 cents for, we're now paying $7.
Now, the governor says there are companies that are stepping up to make some of these items, like masks, for example. But he says they need more and they need it ASAP. Another thing mentioned today, parks. The mayor and governor both telling folks the parks are open, but you need to exercise that social distance or they may have to take more drastic action. We're live on the west side tonight. I'm Ray Vieta, News 4 New York.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Florida's governor is now ordering all New Yorkers flying into his state to self-quarantine for 14 days. Governor Ron DeSantis making that executive order saying New York's pause order to stay at home led to a flood of people fleeing to his state to try to ride it out. Law enforcement and health workers will meet those flights from New York. They'll gather information about the passengers, and they'll even conduct temperature checks.
But let's remember that each number is a fellow New Jerseyan who needs us to rally together behind them and behind each other to flatten the curve and slow the spread of disease.
And today, once again, Governor Phil Murphy encouraged people to stay home. His comments are coming as the state reports more than 900 new cases. That brings the total to more than 2,000. Now, these increases in the positive cases likely a result of the growing number of testing sites. Our own Brian Thompson is at one of those sites in Newark tonight.
2 hours after the Holmdel test site closed, cars still being turned away along the Garden State Parkway. Testing at the PNC Arts Center shut down within a half hour of opening due to high demand. Paramus for the fourth day, the same story, the line of cars hundreds long, many never making it farther than Paramus Road before the roadblock went up. But not like that in Union County, where officials decided you need an appointment first.
There's a lot of misinformation about who could be tested. We wanted to make sure that patients that came here were seen by a physician and evaluated by a physician and received a prescription for the test.
They saw these long lines of cars in Paramus and opted instead for a more orderly, controlled situation here on the Kean University campus.
We could tell from the last week, my office has been inundated with calls from the public about where they could be tested, when testing was going to come online, when this program was going to start.
Union County can run 200 tests a day here indefinitely, and the need is there. Moran describing what it was like.
A few had family members drive them here, but I would say the far majority of them are driving by themselves.
Here in Newark, it was walk-in by appointment only, but greeted at the door and carefully escorted inside by protected health workers. With more and more testing coming online, and it's mostly by appointment in northern New Jersey and central New Jersey counties, well, more cases are being discovered. The governor's saying that it will run into the many thousands before we reach a peak, despite this shutdown. In Newark, Brian Thompson, News 4 New York.
In Connecticut, Yukon Health is answering the call for more testing and offering a drive-up test site in Farmington. Patients must have a prescription for the test, and they have to show a photo ID before they get swabbed. Yukon Health is one of more than 21 testing sites in the state. The results take about 2 days.
The number of cases has been growing on Long Island, more than 2,000 in Nassau County, Suffolk County nearing 1,500. Despite the dire numbers, there is a show of support. Community members stepping up, trying to help the people on the front lines of this pandemic. News 4's Greg Circle with the story tonight in Yaphank.
It's good. It's a good feeling, doing our part.
Thank you so much.
The donations ranged from a single box to an entire van load of personal protective equipment. Every item a potential lifesaver.
I dropped off about 20 N95 masks and about 90 pairs of latex gloves.
Kevin Dickerson dropped off leftovers from his home renovation.
Medical workers and everybody else is going to need them a lot more than we are.
This is really priority to us.
A Holbrook man donated gloves from his now closed hair salon.
Got to give back, and I got to redirect my energies. Every little bit does count.
But this was more than a little bit. Suffolk officials say the amount of equipment left at the Suffolk Fire Academy was overwhelming.
Am I surprised by the turnout? No, we're New Yorkers. This is what we do best.
The PPE equipment collected will go not only to doctors and nurses, but also to nursing homes and medical practices, the front line of the fight against this virus.
I've never really experienced anything like this before.
Matt Delarada donated gloves from his moving business, a chance, he says, to drive away that ever-present feeling of helplessness.
It feels like I'm taking an active part. I see everybody else. When you look on the news, people are doing such wonderful things, and it makes you feel good.
Suffolk's fire rescue chief says roughly 10,000 gloves were donated today alone. And county crews will be back here at the Fire Academy beginning at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning to accept whatever else people will donate. We're in Yaphank. Greg Circle, News 4 New York.
Right now, the White House Coronavirus Task Force is updating the country on the pandemic. Tonight's briefing comes after a partisan standoff on Capitol Hill earlier today. Senators are at odds over advancing a multi-trillion-dollar package designed to send a lifeline to Americans who've been impacted by the economic ripple of the virus. Now, Democrats argue that the bill helps large corporations and not U.S. workers. But Republicans accuse them of playing politics. The president has said that both sides have to act quickly and strike a deal.
This should not be a time for political agendas, but rather one for focusing solely and squarely on the needs of the American people.
The bill includes help for small businesses and stimulus checks for many individuals and families.
The National Action Network is partnering with World Central Kitchen. Their goal is to keep people from going hungry during this pandemic.
Yeah, they plan to serve 500 hot and cold meals every day, Monday through Saturday, at the network's headquarters there in Harlem. We're told the distribution will start at noon. The National Action Network's headquarters is located at West 145th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard.